that our theme is red, night, and blue, which which I think everyone's excited about because we kind of wanted to marry the night and the Griffin Pride from all the people coming from East, so we thought that was good. It's also going to be like a USA kind of theme. And we also sorted out T-shirts for the staff, which is going to be like a tie-dye red, white, and blue that they're all going to wear on Friday. And then we're going to kick off homecoming week by decorating the AP room at 9 o'clock. And what I've heard is that it looks really good in there, and that I'm really excited for, because I last year attended Lincoln Way East. I'm very excited to make this homecoming great for everyone. And then also, we have a Road to Reality next week, which is kind of like tells everyone, like students, like how drinking and driving can really like affect them and kind of like raise up questions. And then for decorating for the dance, we actually have a new DJ this year, which I think everyone's excited about. And for the homecoming dance, I think it'll be a huge success.
Thank you.
Okay, hello, I'm Kelly Newton. I'm the other co-student council president here at Lincoln Way Central. And after homecoming is over next week, we will begin planning our Halloween night, which is an event here at Lincoln Way Central that uses a night pun, which we're always very proud of our night puns here. And this event is unique because it involves many of our clubs and activities. They are asked to come and run a classroom when our community members and their children are invited to trick-or-treat around the building. And so each club mans a doorway and gives the children candy. And then at the end, they come to our AP room, which is our main cafeteria here at Lincoln Way. And our student council runs small games for the kids to win prizes. And we're super excited to begin planning that after homecoming is over, of course. So we're very excited. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Great job, guys. Look forward to another year of reports for you guys. And trust me, it will get easier. Thank you very much. Moving on to action items. Presentation of outstanding invoices. Mr. Luchetti.
Motion to approve the outstanding invoices in the amount of $1,709,775.98 dated September 22nd, 2016.
First by Mr. Luchetti. Can I get a second?
Second.
Second. Roll call, please.
Discussion.
Discussion? Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Lulo.
Aye.
Mr. Kirking.
Aye.
Mr. Kostick.
Aye.
Mr. Luchetti.
Aye.
Mr. Kozel.
Aye. Personnel report.
If I can refer you to personnel report found in your places this evening, and the resignations: Dan Scadling, maintenance employee, buildings and grounds, requesting to resign from his position effective October 19th. Susan Cooper, bus driver, transportation department, requesting to resign this position effective August 31st. Shelley Wantes, athletic secretary, West High School, requesting to resign from this position effective September 2nd, 2016. Julie Ashley, cafeteria employee, East Cafeteria, requesting to resign from this position effective August 19th. And Kyle Lang, paraprofessional, East, requesting to resign from this position effective September 23rd. I ask that you accept these resignations as presented.
So moved.
First by Mr. Lulo.
Second.
Second by Mr. Luchetti. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries.
Under retirement, Linda Lopez, executive director of the Lincoln High School Foundation, requesting to retire under the IMRF retirement system effective October 26, 2016. I ask that you approve this retirement as presented.
Motion.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Lulo.
Second.
Second by Mr. Kirking. That's a roll call.
Mr. Lulo.
Aye.
Mr. Kirking.
Aye.
Mr. Kostick.
Aye.
Mr. Luchetti.
Aye.
Mr. Kozel.
Aye.
Under leaves, Brianna Korzak, English instructor, Central High School, requesting a 12-week FMLA and a 1-week parental leave at the conclusion of her maternity leave, returning for the 2017-2018 school year. I ask that you accept this leave as presented.
Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
First and a second. Roll call, please.
Mr. Lulo?
Aye.
Mr. Kirking?
Aye.
Mr. Costick?
Aye.
Mr. Lucetti?
Aye.
Mr. Kosel?
Aye. All right, moving on, out-of-state travel, Dr. Tingley.
Out-of-state travel found in your backup materials. The first is FBLA, Christine Ahern, November 4th and 5th. It's a leadership conference in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Cost to the student $85. The organization would fundraise to cover the other $500. Number of students would be 11 students, the leadership capacity. As we've discussed in the past, students missing a day of school, if it involves a leadership conference or an extracurricular opportunity that's school affiliated, that's something that the board has approved. I would recommend they would approve this, as it is a 2-day conference and providing leadership skills and leadership opportunity for our students. The second would be Spanish spring break tour trips, one in 2017, one in 2018. These would be sponsored by Linda Agnetz. They would be a little different in that the 2017 trip would be any of our Spanish students, whereas the 2018 would be for our Spanish 3 and above, and then a couple selected Spanish 2 students based upon teacher recommendations. That would entail an immersion study in Costa Rica that would be a half day of language classes each day with practical application activities in the afternoon, paired with some touring and volunteering. I would recommend that you accept these out-of-state travel as presented, pending the principals getting the appropriate documentation.
Motion? The out-of-state travel as presented.
So moved.
First by Mr. Lulo, second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Lucetti. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Approval of the treasurer's report for August 2016. Sorry.
Treasurer's report, once again, found in your backup materials and well sent to you prior to the meeting. On the front page, tax anticipation warrants, we have the $20 million due to Old Second Bank by October 30th. We've paid $10 million. We anticipate paying the additional $10 million owed September 29th. As you can see, we've detailed the loan from the education fund to the O&M fund, also the loan from working cash to transportation. On the second page, it was a mistake. The 70 account still said transportation. Those money, or said working cash. Those money markets are now qualified as transportation as we moved that money over. In terms of income for the month of August, developer contributions at $41,000. We still see some growth from our developer contributions. That will slow down through the winter and then hopefully pick up again in the spring. The tax distributions obviously came in September. We'll see more on the 29th, and then that'll kind of give us our fall tax distribution from that standpoint. Any questions regarding the treasurer's report or some of the cash flows that we had provided?
So on the balance sheet, I guess I'll call it.
So,
Yes.
Okay.
That report. We have to name, I think we should name it. I think I'll have the same comment when we're going over the budget. I don't believe we should have this $5 million for the land sale in our proposed budget.
Okay.
So I would have that removed. My second thing is I'm glad to see that we have the fiscal year 16 year-to-date comparison column on there now. I think that's kind of, as we're going through this on a month-to-month basis, we have something to compare it to, but obviously there's been some adjustments made. So I think it would help if we put some footnotes down here so that we know when we're making comparisons, for example, on where we're taking state aid and fiscal year 17 versus 16. And also, if there's any big kind of discrepancies, I think it would help to have it kind of put in writing on here. For example, the state aid that came in fiscal year 16, we were ahead of where we are in 17. I think, just to kind of note those types of things on here would be helpful additions. And then I guess I have one specific question, which is the salaries so far for the first 2 months. Actually, we're showing having an increase in our salary expense year to date through August 31st, as opposed to 16. With our budget, we would expect that to be declining by about 4.5%. So,
Correct.
just that there's an explanation there.
There is, and we would talk about it during the budget, but we can do it right now. Last year, fiscal year 16, the first 4 payrolls for the 10-month employees were based upon 26 pays rather than 24. And that equates to about an 8% difference. In looking at, when we were working through the budget here this last few weeks, in fact, our second payroll was September 20th. So we ran those first 2 payrolls in September. We looked back at the anomaly and realized that our savings will come from this point on. And so we did add money to salaries in the budget, as I've communicated with the board, to make up for that anomaly. In addition, the lane changes all began and were turned in prior to the first payroll in September. And so those calculations came in, and so there is some adjusting on our salaries and some of our benefits based upon that 26 versus 24 pay.
Right. One other thing, and I think I've already brought this up with you, we're putting the contingency, the budgeted amount for the contingencies with dues and fees. I think since that has to be board approved, kind of move it to another item, I think that should be separated out, because I don't think it should be kind of showing as available in the budget.
Yeah, we can do that for next month.
And then flipping to the total operating funds, we have money coming in under services to other districts and revenue. We don't have a proposed budget amount for that.
Yeah. Kelly, can you talk about Kelly, can you talk about the change in the accounting for that, for the services to other districts?
Thank you, Kelly. Put you on the spot here.
No problem. So what we realized when we were going through the budgeting process was that in previous years, the receipts from other districts that we received for transporting other district students, there was an allocation that was done among Fund 20, the Operations and Maintenance Fund, Transportation Fund, the Fund 50, which is our municipal IMRF fund, and then the tort fund. Just looking at everything, we didn't really see any justification for continuing to allocate any of those receipts to the Operations and Maintenance Fund going forward. So we are reallocating all of that had previously been allocated to Fund 20 to the Transportation Fund. We will continue to allocate money, though, to the tort fund and also to IMRF, because all of our bus drivers are IMRF employees. So, the employer portion of IMRF we're still funding. And then workers' comp goes through the tort fund, and probably our largest claim percentage is from transportation, so it makes sense to continue to allocate some of those receipts to the tort fund.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I do have one.
Okay.
Good.
I'll stay.
Under operating funds, capital outlay, we're at 112% of budget already.
Right, that, we're gonna do a journal entry for that to reclass that expenditure to purchase services. One of our lease bills was paid out of capital outlay. I think it was right when I started. I'm not sure if I saw that bill or not, but all of our lease payments should be purchase services because they're not capital leases on our buses. So that'll be reclassed for next month.
Anything else?
I have a quick question.
Sure.
Talk to me again about the tax anticipation warrants. They'll be paid off in full with the distribution on the 29th,
Correct.
and then what?
And then we will borrow on the 30th
For this fiscal year.
for this fiscal year, correct. So we will pay off on the 29th and be in a position where we need to borrow funds to keep the ed fund whole as we move through this fiscal year. We've been authorized for $20 million, and we'll begin that borrowing on the 30th. They'll allow us to borrow in 4 to 5 increments based upon need the last day of each month moving forward. And by doing so, then we limit that interest a little bit by not taking the whole bite at the apple, so to speak. We're also set up that our taxes will then be automatically escrowed to the bank account so that we're paying it off more timely as taxes are collected in the spring. The appropriate percentage will be set up through Will County that once the taxes are collected, goes to the bank account, then we stop paying interest on that amount of money. So we'll see if that helps a little as we go through the process. One of the issues, we anticipate needing somewhere between 25, 27, maybe 28 million based upon timing this year. Right now, we're guaranteed 20, so we'll have to continue to work through that process by the time we get to February or March, where we may need those additional funds. But we'll continue to investigate other options and work with other potential lenders. And our rate did go up from 1.75 to 1.85, but it's a variable rate based upon the Fed, so that could change as well throughout the course of our loans.
So this is going to require a special board meeting next week.
We will need to meet next Thursday evening, and if everybody is willing, we will post that meeting tomorrow. We must pass the levy before we're able to borrow money for fiscal year 17. The levy is in a very good place. You'll receive it most likely tomorrow afternoon, and then we would look for approval next Thursday in order for us to begin borrowing on Friday.
Any other discussion? Motion to approve the treasurer's report as submitted, 2016.
Submitted with those.
With those, yes, with those
With the
adjustments.
changes, yes.
I'll make that motion.
First by Mr. Perky. Can I get a second?
Second?
Second by Mr. Lucetti. Roll call, please.
Mr. Lulo?
Aye.
Mr. Kirking?
Aye.
Mr. Costick?
Aye.
Mr. Lucetti?
Aye.
Mr. Kozel?
Aye. Approval of the student activities report for August 2016.
Student activities report between now and next month, there will be quite a bit of work put into our student activity funds. We will begin to move funds from one building to the other throughout the district. In some cases, we will track all of those adjustments. Those will be presented to the board in October. The goal is to have 3 building student activity funds that are identical. Some of the funds we've already zeroed out. Some more we still have to work with. There are a couple of negatives this month that we will need to take care of. But moving forward, the project, Kelly's timeline was to have this completed for the board in October as we move through this process. I'll answer any questions that you may have.
I just think we need, as we're going through that process, we need the council tracking.
Tracking, yes, we
Because we're
will
doing
do
it
that.
over multiple months.
Yes.
Tracking on that. Also, I think the control has to be put in place where any accounts that are overdrawn need to be listed with the reason they were overdrawn and when it will be resolved.
Correct. We'll do that.
One additional suggestion when we get this, can we get a narrative with it as well?
Yeah, and I think that's what Chris has asked for too, a narrative of what's where and why. Yeah, we will be able to do that.
I Have a motion to approve the student activities report for August of 2016.
So moved.
First by Mr. Kirking, second.
Second.
Second, and that's a roll call.
Mr. Lulo?
Aye.
Mr. Kirking?
Aye.
Mr. Costick?
Aye.
Mr. Lucetti?
Aye.
Mr. Kozel?
Aye. Application for recognition of schools.
Application for recognition of schools is something every district in the state of Illinois has to do by October 1st. I cannot go on to iOS and complete the 6 questions, so on, and submit to the Illinois State Board of Education and Regional Office of Education until the board authorizes me beginning that process. The questions deal with our parapros, listing of the parapros and their licensure. They deal with our staff evaluation and abiding by the paralaws and other training and certification. They're very simple yes or no questions. If you have to answer no, you have to give the reason as to why. There won't be any no's in ours. We'll be able to answer yes. I'll submit that to Sean Walsh tomorrow, and then once they approve it, then it goes through the Iowa system, but it's something that's done annually at all 3 high schools. So I would recommend authorization to complete the recognition of schools to stay in compliance.
I have a motion to complete that application for the recognition of schools.
So moved.
First by Mr. Lucetti, second by Mr. Lulo. So a roll call just to be sure here.
Mr. Lulo?
Aye.
Mr. Kirking?
Aye.
Mr. Costick?
Aye.
Mr. Lucetti?
Aye.
Mr. Kozel?
Aye. Strategic plan.
Well, the board has discussed the option of strategic plan. This evening, Dr. Madonia is with us. He's presented a proposal to the district for strategic planning, and he's willing to answer any questions, give an overview if the board has any questions, if the board would like to move forward. I know there's been discussion in terms of developing a strategic plan. We had one presentation from Dr. Catcher, and so I thought for comparative purposes, we would invite Dr. Madonia this evening, and he's certainly ready to answer any questions that the board may have.
Up for discussion. Dr. Madonia, if you want to say a couple words to start.
I would be glad to. I just want to